Well, welcome everybody. Good evening. Welcome to my first ever seminar. What the Bible has to say about artificial intelligence. I am so excited to be teaching a seminar. I am so excited to be teaching this seminar and this content in particular. I've been working on this for actually a couple of years. The reason is I think this is a topic that is incredibly relevant to the way that we live our daily lives. You know, I've been in church most of my life. I took the better part of a decade off for adolescence because that was cool. But I've been in church a lot, and I've heard many, many sermons, and I don't know if I've ever heard a sermon on having a right or healthy or God-honoring relationship with technology. And that's wild because technology permeates our world. You know, from the moment I woke up in the morning, this morning, I woke up at 6:30 on the dot, not because God gifted me with some kind of crazy circadian rhythm that allows me to get up on command, but because I had a little piece of technology on my bedside that was counting down the seconds and waiting for 6:30 a.m. to come along so that it could wake me up, just like every single one of you. And then I went and I got in the shower. I took a hot, wonderful shower on this cold Alaska day. And I didn't do it by heating wood for my water. I did it by the power of technology, which used natural gas to heat that water instantly and deliver it to my shoulders. Praise be to God. And then I came to work. I came to work on time at 65 miles an hour. And I didn't do that because I'm the fastest man alive. I did it with the power of technology, right? Technology. I mean, even all the way to the end of our day today, and our ability to be here tonight has been completely empowered, enabled, and is dependent upon technology, from the social media posts that you may have seen to the audio amplification of my voice. Technology permeates our world. And we have a generally positive view of technology as modern people because technology has enabled our world, and it's an amazing world. I mean, let me just give you an example of something that I just did last month. My lovely wife and I just did a turn and burn to Atlanta, okay? We wanted to see a concert in Atlanta, and so on December 11th, we flew from Anchorage to Atlanta, and on December 12th, we went to the concert, and on December 13th, we flew home. Cool, right? Now, that's a pretty mundane story for me to tell you, right? But let me just point out that somewhere in the middle of that story, I crossed North America twice in the space of 72 hours. And that would have been absolutely amazing to my great-great-grandpappy who was on the Oregon Trail dying of dysentery. Right? Technology is absolutely amazing. It has enabled our modern world. To a large extent, technology defines our understanding of the past and the future and our position in it. So when you think about the past, think about a time in the past and how their lives are different than us and how they are different than we are. You probably don't think immediately about the political systems or the weather or any of these things. What do you think about? The technology. Yeah, that's why we're different from them, because of our technology. And it also defines our ideation about the future. So when we start thinking about, I don't know, how could the future be in the future? What are the sorts of things that we're thinking about are going to exist in the future different from today? New technologies. I don't know, maybe I can teleport or live to 500. I don't know, something cool. Technology. So technology, to a large extent, defines our view of what is possible in the world. And in the world of technology, AI is a big deal. I don't know how much you guys have followed along with this, but AI is a massive deal. All of the big tech players in Silicon Valley are dumping billions of dollars into this. Microsoft has put $13 billion into ChatGPT. Amazon has put another $8 billion into Anthropic. Apple's dumped $10 billion of its own money into research, as has Facebook, Meta. And here's the new big announcement from just November. Google announced that it's spending $50 billion to completely redo search and Gmail and all Google things based around AI and its limitless possibilities. In fact, they're now constructing nuclear reactors to power the data centers that they are expected to need to run their AI systems. So Google's now building nuclear reactors. The stock market has also noticed this. There's one company that kind of rules above the rest in terms of the manufacturing of the physical chips that you need to run the AI brains, and that's NVIDIA Corporation. Here's their stock chart over the last 5 years. They're up 2,244%, and it's not because people are playing video games. This is AI, and the potential that technology and Silicon Valley see for our AI-powered and enabled future. Now, at the same time, in another part of California, the great cultural artists of our time, and I mean people in Hollywood, because I think that the movie is the great American art form, have been churning out all kinds of stories about our relationship with technology, and most of them are not particularly positive, right? I basically take my robot movies and I sorted them into 3 categories. Here are my 3 categories of robot movies. We are either enslaved, eliminated, or enfeebled. This is what happens to us in our tech-driven future. We go into the Matrix so we can become batteries, or the machines kill us all through Skynet, or we just become whatever is happening over to my left, your right, in the world of Wall-E. So all 3, now these might be movies, these might be, popular culture things, but all 3, the culture, the art and culture that is coming out of our storytellers is a warning to us. And it is coming out of our felt experience of our present relationship with technology. We feel the unhealthiness in our present relationship with technology, and they are helping us express that through these movies and our fears and apprehensions about the future. So what I hope to give you tonight, thank you for giving me an hour of your time. Here's what I want to give you in exchange. I want to equip and empower you with a framework to think biblically about how you interact with technology broadly, about what AI is likely to mean from a spiritual perspective, and how you can prepare yourself and your family and your world for our coming AI future. Sound good? So here's our schedule for tonight. It's my first seminar. I said, I'm used to doing shorter things. This is really long, really long. I don't think you guys can sit through the whole thing. So I broke it into 3 parts. We're gonna do a part 1, our world of technology, then I'm gonna give you a 5-minute break. Then we're gonna do Made in His Image, I'm gonna give you a 5-minute break. And then Jethro over Jacob, we're gonna do Q&A if there is any, and then you're done. Does that sound good? Now the way we're gonna do Q&A is that I want you to text your questions to that phone number that I put over there on the left-hand side. So if you wanna text a question throughout, just pull out your phone, type in that number, and at the end of the talk, I'll pull out my phone and see what we got. Sound good? Okay, let's do it. Part 1, our world of technology. So I said in the introduction, I talked a little bit about how tech has permeated our world and has enabled our world, and we have a generally positive view of technology. Most people, don't want to go back in time to, for example, 50% child mortality. Any takers? No, okay. A 40-year life expectancy? No, okay. 90% plus of the population being farmers? Okay. So when we think about technology in the world that it has enabled, we think about what technology enables, what it allows us to do. We very seldom think about what it prohibits or makes difficult to do. So let me just give you a very, very simple example. There was an experience that existed that was the horse journey from New York to Philadelphia. Every single one of the founding fathers of the United States took this horse journey and had all of the associated experiences of that journey. They crossed over that landscape, they arrived at those knolls at that time, the first apple tree was always there, etc., right? They probably hitched their horses at similar places and, ran into weather in the same spots, etc. Now, if you wanted to take that same journey today, you would find it all but impossible. Why? Because of the interstate highway system. The interstate highway system cuts through all of that and has replaced all of the infrastructure that was necessary to support horse journeys from New York to Philadelphia. And so technology, the interstate highway system, has enabled something amazing here, which is a 90-minute trip from New York to Philadelphia. Wow. Paul Revere, what would he have given for that, right? But we often don't think about the fact that there is an entire experience that went into that in some ways may have been formative to those founding fathers of the United States that is now closed to us. We can't get there. We can't do it even if we want to, because technology has prohibited it. Does that make sense? Okay. So when thinking about technology, there's actually an entire school of thought on technology. It's called philosophy of technology, and you can study it. Neat, right? And one of my favorite philosophers of technology is a guy who lived through the 20th century, died just in May of 23, by the name of Albert Borgmann. And Borgmann wrote a piece called Technology and the Character of Contemporary Life. And Borgmann noticed that there was something different about the kind of technology that we are building post-industrial revolution and how we relate to it compared to the tools that we built before, okay? So humans have been inventing things and making little knickknacks and improving our lives as long as there have been humans. It's part of what we are. But there's something different about what we're building now, the way we're building it now, and the way that we relate to it that is fundamentally distinct, and Borgmann put his finger on it. He made a comparison between a tool and a device. A tool versus a device. So here's the difference between a tool and a device. A tool is something that requires skill to use and that naturally that extends the natural God-given capabilities of the human user, right? So you can imagine, well, we'll do examples in a second. That's what a tool is. A device, however, is not like a tool. A device considers the final output of the thing, which is, we call the commodity, the thing that you want to get, and it says we can create machinery that will allow us to get that commodity without skill or effort. Does that make sense? So let's do examples. It will make even more sense. Here's a tool and a device. Over here on your left, this is a Shun Santoku kitchen knife. It is a tool. It is sharp, it is well made, it holds an edge well, and in the hands of a skillful chef, this empowers and enhances and extends their capability. The more skillful you become with it, the more stuff you can do with it. It's a tool. Now, over here on your right, you have the slap chop. The slap chop is a device. The entire value proposition of the slap chop is that you don't have to know how to cut vegetables. That's the whole point. You put the vegetables in there and then you slap it like this. If you can do this, you can now chop vegetables. So the commodity, the thing that we want, is chopped vegetables. If we use a tool that's like a knife, that requires us to have skill in order to get it. The slap chop is a device. It introduces machinery to give us the commodity that we want without the skill and the labor. Does that make sense? It's a device. Okay, let's use another example. This is heating systems throughout human history. Heating throughout human history has remained relatively unchanged, okay? Over here in 4000 BC, you gather fuel for your fire and you light it on fire and you gather around it to stay warm. Now here in 500 BC, we're surrounding the fire with clay, but the same underlying principle. You get fuel, you put it in there, you light it on fire, and you gather around the fire to stay warm is still in operation. Here in 1860, on the American frontier, we have a cast iron wood stove / cook stove thing, but the underlying principle is still exactly the same. You gather fuel, you put it inside a thing, you light it on fire, and you gather around it to stay warm. So this has been a common part of the human experience as long as there has been human experience. And these are various tools that we have used to enhance or extend that experience, okay? Now, how do we stay warm? Like this. We stay warm like this, okay? That's how I choose for it to be 78 degrees, like this. It is completely disconnected from that whole history of human experience. We're the first people in history who do not gather fuel, put it in a pile, light it on fire, and gather around. We go like this. And it becomes that temperature through the power of machinery. So the commodity is what? heat. The machinery in our case is your boiler, your Toyo stove, I don't care what it is, and that's part of the whole thing. As we use more and more devices and fewer tools, the machinery itself gets more and more obscured from our view. So for you and I, the end user, do you even care if your house is heated by natural gas or oil? Does it matter? Because you go like this, and this is how you do it, and this is how they do it, and this is how we all do it, like this. And you just call a different person if it breaks. That's the difference. Okay, one more example. Getting meat to eat. This is 4 stages of getting meat to eat. Here is what it originally meant. Getting meat to eat meant hunting meat, okay? So you go out and you kill an animal and then you can cook it and eat it. Congratulations, you have meat. Okay, now let's introduce one level of device abstraction, okay? The grocery store. The grocery store is the device that I use to acquire meat. When I want meat, I don't get a spear. I go to Costco, and Costco is for me a device. I don't exactly know where that meat came from. I don't know how it got there. I think it was probably cut behind that door. It's still pretty red, and that's about all I know. It appears there by the power of the machinery of Costco. And then I buy it, and I can take it home, but there's still skillfulness involved here, right? I've got to cook it before I can eat it. Shall we introduce another level of device? Okay, what if I don't want to cook it? I can always use a restaurant, which is a still further level of device. It's a device on top of the device. So this is just like my kitchen at home, except now I have a chef, which is being used as a device to produce this commodity so I don't have to cook it myself. Brilliant. Costs more money, takes less work, doesn't create dishes. A restaurant, I can do that. Now, but there's still some effort involved in going to a restaurant. I have to socialize, I have to talk to the host, the waiter. There is something to this, right? So shall we go all the way, everyone? What is the 4th and final layer of 21st century abstraction? That's right, it's DoorDash. Absolutely. Now I don't even have to go to the restaurant. I now, in between rounds, while I'm in the lobby loading into the next round of my game, I can slightly move my hand and tap with my thumb, and cooked steak will come to my door. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So here we have 4 layers of using devices to further and further abstract this. At each layer of this, it gets easier for me, right? I had to kill it, I had to cook it, I had to go outside, I had to move my arm. If Elon has his way, I'm not gonna have to do that, right? It's gonna get so easy to deliver that cooked meat straight to my door. Now, what is lost? I've been going for the last couple of years because our church has been involved in the mission out in Marshall. So I've been going out there and just spending time with more Yupik people. You know, hunting for them is so much more than a way to acquire meat. It's an entire identity. It's the way that the young men come of age. We went to see drumming at the school. Guess what most of the songs are about? Hunting. The hunt. It's a focal practice. It is a defining thing that has created a culture. So to say, well, it is just the very same thing to tap with your finger and have it delivered to your door, it's not. It's not. And so what Borgmann challenges us to do, and I think that this is essential to thinking biblically about technology, is to question what things we lose when we adopt this device paradigm, this device-based way of thinking, and use it to navigate the world. Because for modern people, it's not just our devices that we use as devices. This has become our paradigm, our unreasoning, unthinking way of looking at the world. So when we want to interface with anything in the world, we expect it to behave as a device. So let's take our institutions, for example. What is a school? What is the purpose of a school? To provide education. To provide education. That is the commodity that the school provides, and the school is the device that provides that. And so I, as the user of that device, I use that same expectation that I have here with any of these devices with that device. If it stops working, I expect to be able to fix it, or to be able to trade it in for a different device. I don't feel any kind of necessary underlying loyalty or participation in the thing. I don't feel like this school is an institution that is fundamentally different because I'm here. It provides me with education. I spent 5 years in the classroom before I had the privilege of serving here as a pastor. And one of the number one questions that I would get from my students is, what do I need to do to pass or get an A? That's what they want. They want to pass or they want to get an A. I hardly ever had a student come to me and say, what do I have to do to become a truly great computer programmer? What do I have to do to really own this? I mean, I really want to make movies. What would it take? I hardly ever heard that question. I got 10 how do I get an A's for every time I heard one of those questions. Because my class was a device. The thing that they wanted was a 4.0 transcript so that they could use that as a device to gain admission into universities, that they could use that as a device to secure for themselves, I don't know, financial security. And when that didn't work for my generation, we hashtag Occupied Wall Street, right? We're very mad because our device didn't work. You know, one of the places this becomes most insidious is when religion becomes a device. When religion becomes a device. I mean, human religion is in some ways the original device. We fell from grace and we became embarrassed and ashamed of ourselves and we hid from God. And the first thing that we ever did was invent a piece of technology in the fig leaf to cover ourselves up. See, fixed it. And to some extent, all human religion has followed that same, or has had the temptation or tendency to follow that same archetype of becoming a tool that we can use to twist and manipulate God. This is true in the Old Testament. God gave his law to his people to show them how to live well, to show them how to do right, and what a just and righteous world would look like. And because they weren't actually going to do it all that well, he provided the system of sacrifices to make atonement for them and to fix this, right? And what ended up happening is the people looked at that system of sacrifices and they said, aha, this is a device that provides the commodity that we want, rightness with God. And all we have to do is figure out how to give it the right input, and then everything is going to be good. And the most scathing critique of this behavior comes from the very first chapter of Isaiah. And I just want to read to you, this is the word of God talking about looking at human religion that is treating him as a device. He says, "What are all your sacrifices to me?" asks the Lord. "I've had enough of burnt offerings and rams and the fat of well-fed cattle. I have no desire for the blood of bulls or lambs or male goats. When you appear before me, who requires this of you, this trampling in my courts? Stop bringing useless offerings. Your incense is detestable to me. Your new moons and your Sabbaths and the calling of solemn assemblies. I can't stand it. I hate your new moons and your prescribed festivals. They're all a burden to me, and I'm tired of putting up with them. When you spread out your hands in prayer, I'll refuse to look out at you. Even if you offer countless prayers, I won't listen. Your hands are covered in blood. Wash yourselves, cleanse yourselves. Remove your evil deeds from my sight. Stop doing evil and learn to do what is good. Pursue justice, correct the oppressor, defend the rights of the fatherless, and plead the widow's cause." God's whole point is that he didn't establish this sacrificial system as a device, as an instrument that we could manipulate in order to get, rightness with him. He's smart. He's smart. And he wanted to show us how to live. And so he mocks their use of the device paradigm in human religion. Perhaps the most tragic modern application of this is when our human relationships come to be devices. So, we are just so used to interacting with this world in a way that brings customer satisfaction that we can bring that same heart attitude to our human relationships. What is the function of a friendship? What is the function of a marriage? Of parents? And if those relationships don't provide that function, if they don't work right, you return them. And you buy another one. Because that's what you do with a broken device that doesn't output what it's supposed to. So the device paradigm is not just, part of our, it's how we see. As modern Westerners, it is how we see, it's how we think. It is the air we breathe. And AI is going to offer us more devices than ever before. So, that's my cliffhanger. Time for a 5-minute break. Everybody ready for a 5-minute break? Let's do it. So if you want to talk to people during the 5-minute break, here's 2 questions that you can answer. These are like discussion questions. If you don't want to talk, just, go to the bathroom or fix your hair or whatever. And I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Bye.